Hello, hello. Welcome to Oya Cinema Club today. And we've got JP, Naomi, Jason, Des, Raymond, Dino, Jason, Steve, all here today. And today we're going to be talking about Eyes Without a Face.
You said Des and Jason twice, so
Did I? Oh my
they're obviously your favorite.
Sorry, JP.
That's okay. It's not my first night in the doghouse. It's okay. I go back to the movie. We saw a movie.
We did. We saw the French horror flick, Eyes Without a Face. It's a classic. It was made in 1959. And let's just start with initial thoughts. Anyone want to jump up?
Well, I have an initial thought. My initial thought is, why do you guys not have an Eyes Without a Face background today? That is really messing with me.
We'll fix
it's
it
actually
in post.
My fault because
No, we'll fix it in post.
Okay. Because I wore really bright green eyeliner today.
I see. Okay.
I love it.
Thank you.
Yes, it looks great.
Thank you.
So okay. First off, it was a weird movie, and I would expect nothing less than a 1959 horror flick suggested by Michaela. This movie has actually been on my watch list for a long time. It shows up on a lot of films you must see list, actually, and so it's been around for a minute, making its way into my collective conscious. So thank you for recommending it. Right off the rip, I knew it was going to be a freak show because they were playing circus music as the movie started. And that score, I thought, was incredible. Like, every time something weird was popping up or somebody had a weird facial expression, they would start playing that weird music. And it's so trippy and so scary and bizarre. Like, I loved it. The movie itself, I take into account that it's 1959 and it's French and it's horror. I could recommend the movie to like weird movie viewers, but personally, I don't think I would necessarily have picked this thing on my own. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either. And it was strange. It was strange, but it was rather enjoyable because I hadn't really seen anything quite like it before. The acting in it was all fine. It all suited the story. I thought personally, and it was a weird story. There's a lot of unanswered questions that I really wanted answered in this thing, and I'm sure we're going to get into that. But right off the rip, I thought it was weird, and I'm really down for just about any kind of weird movie. You know what I mean? So it sort of lit my fire a bit. That was my initial impression.
Oh, hi. Initial impression. This movie was original for me. I've never seen anything like this before. However, I've seen other people copy or like retrieve some of their life from this movie. So I really enjoyed it because I saw the originality. It's back in the 50s, like they were breaking barriers. I enjoyed it. I liked it, you guys. And yes, life is great. How's everyone doing?
Yeah. All right, Steve.
My turn. You said Steve?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you. So first impressions of this movie. Let's start with the score because that was the first thing that I definitely noticed. And I'm on the opposite side. I hated the actual music, especially the one that they used in the beginning or whatever. That it was like that weird circus stuff. I just felt so like I don't know. It's just like, yo, can you just find someone like to do better music for this? But I also get that is the 60 something. So it's more difficult. We don't live in the SoundCloud era. YouTube is still part of this. So I know it's tough. It's France. I don't know what type of music was popping, but if that was the music that was bumping in the clubs, I'm sorry for all the French people out there. as far as like the actual movie itself, I feel like, and I noticed this because of the last couple movies I've been watching in theaters. Like I watched Godzilla and Mortal Kombat, stuff like that. Like there's certain movies that are more meant to be watched with other people, and I feel like this is one of those movies. I feel like if you watch this movie by yourself, it's kind of weird. Thankfully, I watched this movie with a friend of mine that she was like, sure, I mean, it's kind of weird, but let's watch it. And like, I watched it with her, and we actually had a good time because since there's so many silent moments, it's like good moments when you're with someone and you can like do your little commentary or like talk your stuff or whatever. Like
Right.
we made jokes like, oh, this is the origin story of little Michelle Myers and stuff like that. You know, like we were just like cracking each other up. But it was a good time. I really had a good time with the movie. I won't say I hate it. I definitely won't say I love it necessarily, but it is definitely a movie, in my opinion, that you kind of want, if it's your first time watching this movie, you kind of want to watch it with someone.
Yeah. It's really funny that you bring up Myers, because actually John Carpenter, the inspiration for a big part of that inspiration came from this film, was that her look. That's where he got the idea for the Michael Myers mask.
Yeah.
So
So
it wasn't William Shatner.
No.
Oh.
Well, I mean, his face. Anyways,
and like every horror movie, I thought this was gonna be like really scary, but it wasn't. So
yeah.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I felt the same thing, and then I gotta like catch myself. It's like, oh, it's 1950s horror. Like, just kept telling myself, oh, 1950s horror. I thought the movie was fine. I also agree with Steve. I think it would be better watching with someone else, and probably also in the dark. I watched this during the day, and I was like, oh, this would be such a good like evening watch type of a thing. Yeah, I felt it was weird. I mean, other than it being recommended and we having to watch it, I probably wouldn't have watched it. There are some really great parts in it, but overall, I think it's just hasn't really aged well, in the sense of like just the idea of what the process was to like basically just like a skin transplant, but it's just silly seeing like a 1950s sci-fi kind of thing of how to do a skin graft. And so I enjoyed it a lot in that sense, just looking at like the medicine and laughing about it.
Right.
But yeah, it was a fine movie, first impression. But it's not something I would write home about.
Gotcha. Raymond?
I'm on the I love the score. I do agree. However, it is a movie you should watch with somebody, because I watched it alone at night, and I think I was just like so fixated on certain things. Like I remember in the first 15 minutes, like the sound of the crows and the birds and the dogs. I was just like, it took me out of the journey of the story, because I kept going like, why is everything so loud? But like the score definitely took me into the story, and I feel like while the story itself is a little bit lackluster, especially towards the end, there are so many elements. Like, this movie has been on my to-do list for the longest time. There's so many elements of this film that really, really stand out, and I think hold out, even though time has passed. And like that mask and the way like that actress in the mask moves is so creepy and like perfectly like smooth and like balletic. There's like a lot of different elements of the movie that I think are really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Well, my initial thought, I love the cast. John Travolta and Nicolas Cage. They did an excellent performance. Effing loved it. Like, go. I'm just effing. Okay. Much like the Californian Miner, I digged it. Good job. I'm gonna stop. Okay. Yeah, no, like it's funny because like going back on the score, like I think it's really cool that like when I think of a bad guy's score, I think of like Darth Vader's theme or like Jaws theme, and then you got whenever the lady comes up, we're back in the circus. I did not know if that was intentional. Like was it supposed to come off as eerie? Because it was just totally weird. But I think that's because the instruments that we hear in that song, we immediately go to fucking circus, whatever. Maybe it's different in France. Maybe that's French horror is circus music. No, it's like for me, I kept getting a lot of like Frankenstein vibes off of this film. Like I think if more work was done, I think it could be as iconic as that. This is basically it's basically the story of Dr. Frankenstein if he was a much less redeemable character, and at least we know how. I mean, it's weird to compare the two, but that's how I felt during this entire movie. Was just going back to the Frankenstein films where we do get a sense. Oh, we empathize with the monster, and the monster in this film happens to be a woman who has been scarred, and she wants to return back to life, back to normal, but due to the wills and the stubbornness of her father, basically committing experiments and whatever. Like it was.
Can I disagree? She's not the monster.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
That's the monster.
I come here like if this was Frankenstein, if this was Frankenstein, she was basically Frankenstein's monster. That's why I'm saying like she was was basically the doctor's experimentation. And because we get to hear and actually like hear her speak and hear her pain, you kind of get more empathetic towards that, especially with the like you feel more whatever. I don't even know how to articulate it. But yeah, I couldn't help but think of that, and like I feel like it was a less memorable Frankenstein movie. If that's kind of like what I'm saying. Because there was nothing wrong with the film. There was moments where, like, I agree. The whole skin, like the skin thing, the skin movie, like, I hated that scene. But, it's gross. But you could see the practicality in it. Like, you could tell, like, okay, that's obviously, like, a very inky pen that's dropping on the blood. It's obviously some sort of like mask on top of a person's face. There's not even muscle underneath the face. It's all like mud or whatever. But I feel like the film does have its charm. I feel again, I feel like I'm almost in the same boat with everybody. I don't know if I would watch it a second time, but I do feel like even though I'm not a fan of horror, I think I actually enjoyed the film a bit more than I expected myself to. Even with its faults, with the silly score, and like another thing, like we're gonna probably talk about this later, but like, fuck the cops in this film. They're bastards. But yeah, I just liked how we could go ACAB with this movie. Okay, so yeah, those were my initial thoughts.
I mean, I honestly am kind of also in like that film, that boat where it's like, there are things that I absolutely loved in it. Like, I loved the cinematography. Like, I loved the iconography. Like, the way that this film looked was gorgeous. But I also get what they were trying to do with the music, because basically in Europe, a couple years before, like during World War II and before that, this type of theater was really popular, like doing like actual like theater with like the gore and all of that, and they use the pipe organ. So it's not circus music per se, it's that kind of theater that they're referencing to. Which is like, since we don't have that kind of context, it's hard to kind of like get if you didn't look into it. But yeah, no, like I enjoyed the story a lot. I think that there's like a lot of interesting themes that go in, but at the same time, like I wasn't blown away. Like this was like, I can remember the first time I saw Frankenstein and how that like affected me. I can remember how I first saw like Night of the Walking Dead, and honestly, does anyone else here?
Just
anyways, I do see why it's an important film and why it's a gorgeous film. But it didn't blow me away as like some other classics that were like made during the same time. And that's my initial thoughts. So,
Jason,
you're on mute.
Thank you. I've been talking the whole time. No, I like to ask a question before we move on to the next segment, only because you brought it up. You said you can see why it's an important film. And I have noticed it on film lists, like I said, for years. And it's always been on my list to knock off. In your estimation, why do you think it's an important film?
Well, you can just see how it influenced so many other films that came after it. Like the way that we approach gore, the way that we use it to tell stories, and like there are so many directors and like big horror names that say that this was like one of their favorite films of all time. Billy Idol has a song named after it. It has a place in pop culture that like it really has touched some of the greatest like minds of the generation before ours, I think. And like to recognize and see where that imagination comes from, I think is very important.
So
I had a face. I'm sorry, I had to.
Yeah, no, like that was like a whole thing. But anyways, like, so let's get into the meat of this thing. I think that one of like the most important themes of this entire film, or at least for me watching it, was like how like the road paved with intentions, always like best intentions. That whole idea of how like all good idea or like all like worst things come from good intentions. I think that's like an important theme throughout this entire film. Does everyone think that like are there any characters that you think are actually had like a horrible intention behind anything? Is what like I feel like how does everyone feel about the tragedy of this?
I would imagine
well, if I may,
are the ones that
Yes, please. Sorry, that was really poorly articulated.
I think yes, I do think there were some poor intentions. I think the doctor had very poor intentions. He was drugging people. He was kidnapping girls. People volunteered to have their face taken,
right?
But they weren't. He was luring women back to his mansion and chloroforming them. That can never be good intention,
Well, I
mean,
doing that to save his daughter. Like he's the only doctor.
No. There's no good intentions. The daughter is
safe.
Yeah.
Like he could have found a girl who had like donated her body to science. I mean, I don't know if that was a thing in '59, but I mean, there's other ways around this thing. He could have just grave robbed like old Frankenstein.
What about that? What about that one lady that she's like, I'll give you a ride. Come on, I'm going your way.
She was like Giselle Maxim. She was
that's
there.
That's what I was gonna say. The worse, right?
It was like
even worse.
Assistant.
Right.
Oh, Maxwell. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, she was Giselle Maxwell, whatever her name is. Yeah, man, it was bad people. It was bad people all around. Even the little shoplifting French girl. She was bad news too.
She'll definitely never steal again, though. that she got scared straight.
I mean, I would hope so.
I do think though, like you said earlier, what makes this film so great, or like why is it on so many lists? I think it is pretty dope to have like a cast of characters where like that underlying creep factor seeps into each of them. Like, yes, I would say the main villain is the dad, but then the dad has this henchwoman who holds just as much like gravity and power as he does. And then even like the innocent daughter, who I don't think is that innocent, the way she moves and the way she carries the mask, there's like an underlying creep factor there too, and it makes it less like there are a lot of movies like in the 90s and 2000s where it's like it's very clear the slasher's the bad guy, the end.com, and it's like here it's like there's like red herrings and there's like the suspense carries through whether or not the dad is there, so it's like a little bit more complex, a little bit more gray and murky, like who's the bad guy and why.
That's what I'm saying. It's just like everyone has like a very specific like quote unquote pure intention. Like the doctor like tried to develop this side, like no one's gonna like willingly give up their face for his experiments, and this is the only way that he can save his daughter to have a normal life that she tragically lost, you know? And then like the daughter's just stuck in this place where she can't like navigate a real world, and then there's also like the assistant who just wants to show her love and gratitude for this guy who saved her face, you know.
I
and
thought
then,
that's the mom way.
That was what I was picking up too. Like that was the mom from the wreck before.
Yeah, and had a new face.
Like this whole like thing, because like so like I have a friend who's like obsessed with this film, and when I try to be like, yeah, no, it's totally the mom, like he was like, no, she's just the secretary. But like I'm glad I'm not the only one who picked up that, because like
I didn't get mom vibes at all.
Yeah.
So I
go right now. Go right now. Go.
I did wonder, just because I was like, this is a horror movie, so I don't trust anybody. And when they said, when that lady gets picked out from the river, they said, wow, like this guy's had so much bad luck. 2 accidents with the wife and the daughter, and now the daughter, or something like that. So I never once believed that like the wife died by natural causes. And in my dream of backstory, like it's like there was this assistant and they found love and she did get into an accident, and then the wife was like his first operation, like let me get my wife's face and put it, or I don't know if that makes sense then, because people would think,
like that's a really interesting take. That's spicy.
Yeah, it would make the daughter strike free. You know,
I'm in the same boat. I'm like that lady gave me Monica Lewinsky vibes, you know.
Definitely. Like she's definitely the other
woman.
But like I think that's what makes like these characters so interesting too in their own way. It's just like I don't think any of them set out to be like bad people. They're just put in this situation where they feel like they have to go to these extremes, and these extremes are just awful.
Well, I'm like, all these car accidents, are these really car accidents, or did dad set them up?
He definitely took away the liquid breaker. He definitely did that.
Well, let me ask this. Did they explain what happened to the young lady's face?
Yeah, she was in a car accident. It was a horrible car accident.
And it ripped her face off.
Yeah.
It ripped her face off, and her father did everything he could in his power to make sure that she lived despite it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, that's like his intention behind the whole thing. Is he's just trying to save his daughter.
Which I still think is bull. I still think she was an
like
excuse,
it doesn't just,
you know?
No, it does, like, absolutely. Like, there's absolutely that element of like masculine like hubris, as in like the doctor, like what I say goes, like and like that whole idea of being like too good to fail, right. And like him not being able to accept the fact that maybe his daughter should just like find someone who can love her for her scars instead of like faking her death, you know. But
here's a question for you. When the first surgery didn't take, she became really like even more despondent, and she's like, I don't even want to live anymore. What was that was kind of an interesting turn. And I guess maybe like the audience has to infer like, yeah, she's depressed because her face fell off. But was there like a reason Did you guys see like another reason maybe why like she just like became totally despondent and didn't want to be there anymore? And she was like sabotaging her father's work.
Well, like they make this clear that this isn't the first time that this has happened. Like this is something that's been going on.
Yeah.
You know, like there's like a whole bunch of disappearances, and we just happen to see like the second or third. You know, so like they've tried so many things that she's just tired.
Yeah, and plus she's at the mercy of the dad. She's basically to be like completely real until the dad actually eventually fixes her. She's basically like the dogs in the basement. You know, she can't go back to her normal life. They refuse to let her go out for any reason whatsoever, and even try to call her husband is like, no, your husband has to not know that you're still around. Fuck that. And when we fix her face, go somewhere else. I think that's what they said in the film, right? Like said you'll find a new life under a new name, whatever. So like they literally removed her from her previous life, and until the dad says so, she's stuck at the house, you know.
And on top of that, I also think that she does feel guilty about the other girls.
Yeah.
Like and that's part of what like her stand is so powerful when it does happen. But at the same time, like how like her silence makes her complicit in this whole ordeal that like adds another layer to her tragic story, you know. So I think that now that we've like gotten to like, does anyone have anything to add to this? Backstory and like the themes of anything?
I do.
Okay, Jason.
Okay, so I know there was some type of symbolic theme to those dogs. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about why they had a kettle in their basement full of dogs. What was that about?
I feel like that was like just like who's. I'm so sorry. I can't see who's talking. Is it you, Dino?
I was just gonna say, at least we know who let the dogs out, right?
Oh, it wasn't
Bye,
the
guys.
Mic drop.
I mean, I think that that's like a part of like the whole like anxiety of that time, because like let's think of what was going on. Like this was like in the middle, like this was made during like the middle of the Cold War. A lot of it, like a lot of stuff was circulating about like this one, like there was this one Russian doctor who actually transplanted an entire head of a dog onto another dog. Like
really?
that's around this time. Yeah.
It's not
like that's real life.
He actually did that experiment. Like it was an actual experiment. It failed. No, no, it was awful. Because like it took a head of a smaller dog, put it on a larger dog, and like and it like they both survived for a couple of days, but it was really painful for the animal, and it was not a humane experiment. And like it's just like that was like a whole thing during that time. So I feel
like
So to me, ever since we did the review of The Great Dictator, that I did bring the fact of like, oh, they just been experimenting with people since forever. I just think it was literally an experiment, because why would you have so many animals just locked? You know, they're not protecting nobody.
Right.
In those cages.
Yeah, I kept thinking he was practicing face transplants on the dogs.
He was
ready for that scene.
I mean, it was originally there. They did actually have a scene like that, from what I understand. But the version that they have on HBO has just the skin graft. So
yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
And when you see,
there's another version of this thing.
There's
and
one.
They're like, they're probably like, we can't show audiences watching dogs get mutilated. Like, no one's standing for that.
Release the Snyder cut of.
Right. But we all know that would be like way like harder to watch than the actual like human facial transplant, because we can always suspend our put our suspension of belief like back into place and be like, see, that's fake. Like you wouldn't kill a human on camera. Whereas like with animals,
right?
Like
that's a good point.
You know,
regarding the mass, there were a lot of soldiers who came back from war, would have their faces blown off, but functioning as human beings. And so I do know that there were artisans who were known for making masks, and there's this one in particular who was the first person that started making masks to mold for soldiers coming back from war. So that was popular post World War II.
Mm-hmm.
But then it makes me wonder what's the actual time period that this film is not filmed in, but supposed to be set in.
Right.
I think it's present time, right? For them.
Yeah, I think so too. But that's an interesting take. Like, if you did just like transplant it like 2 or 3 years after World War II, that completely changes the context of certain things, which is kind of an interesting thing to play with. So I think now that we've kind of discussed the themes, I want to go on to talk about like a lot of the imagery. Like, I feel like that's like what makes this film as good as it is. Like, with like, so like, what is like a specific image that like you found very powerful in this film?
Not powerful, but like, it's so funny how iconic the face removal scene is. Because like, I can't tell you how many times I saw that particular scene on a thumbnail or on a creepypasta.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that scene is famous on the internet. So like when it came, I was like, oh, that's where it's from. That's definitely where that came from. I think, spoiler alerts, I think when we finally see when the dad get his comeuppance, that the thing that like really fucks him up that killed him was the dog's mutilation towards his face.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, oh, okay, it's like poetry. It repeats itself. Dad's got his eyes just bugging out.
Mm-hmm.
Something straight out of like The Walking Dead or something. That's just me.
To me, I would say like the definitely that scene for sure was a little cringy for me at the beginning. At the end, it was looking very fake, but at the beginning when they were doing like the whole like removing the skin and all that stuff, that was a little cringy at first for me. So it was definitely memorable. But to me, every moment Michelle Myers was on screen, trying to like figure out what was going on, and she was like creeping into the rooms, just going like a Jabberwocky, doing her little dance.
I can watch that for hours.
Yeah, like to me, yeah, I could watch her, and I was just amazed on how like fragile this woman was. Like, she was so thin. I never seen a person so thin in my life. I was like, this person eating okay? Is there crafty on set?
No, she's just French Des.
Oh, okay.
And she was like I remember watching like tons of Grey's Anatomy's interviews where they said like this was going to be the first doctor show where a lot of the acting happens with just the eyes, and it was for network television, and they were really scared that wasn't going to translate, but they wanted to make that like bold choice because it was more realistic than previous doctor shows before it. And so the fact that this like woman was like acting with all her body and just like her ojitos like for this whole movie, I think is so extraordinary.
Yeah, I think that's super French, right? It's like Marcel, like just like from me doing mask work before and all that. Those are probably my favorite moments. Just her doing this, but with like the white mask. An image that to me was in my mind is in the cemetery when they're going to throw out the second body. And, the first one, they have like a story, whatever, dump it in the water, like it's going to surface at some point. This one is like, let's open our crypt and just dump it in there. Like, no. Like, I don't know, I just like, and it reminds me of we have a similar one in Paraguay, my family has. And, and kind of like in New Orleans, similar stuff where you can stack the coffins down low. So for me, like, that was very giving me flashbacks to when I'm a kid, and my dad took me there to the cemetery to like clean the family, whatever, and opens it, and there's like my grandparents. There are two coffins, and he wants me to like clean in between them and stuff like that, like the leaves and all that. So, which is terrifying because it's it's a little crypt and it's down low, so it's like I could fall on this casket. So to me, I just assume like, oh great, if I ever have to go now to our we're back to Paraguay, I'm gonna open it, and I can just imagine someone being there, that isn't supposed to be there. I don't know. That to me really stuck in my mind, as you can tell.
I was very cringed out at that moment because it's like, man, the disregard for this body to just throw it in the crypt and hope nobody ever finds it. You know what I mean? Like, he's got to do what he's got to do. This dude has to eliminate a lot of bodies. That's a big part of his responsibility. But just the way he dropped it in there is like, how deep is that thing? That was scary. That was straight horror movie style to me.
Yeah. And also, like, it's their own crypt. It's not like, let's hide it in someone else's. Right. At this point, just dump it in ours. Like, we gotta keep going.
If our theories are correct, no one of their importance is in that fucking crypt. And, like, no one's gonna find out that they're in there unless it's a detective or some fucking creep. So I thought that was pretty damn smart.
But that just to show you, when you're in a position of power, you just do whatever the fuck you want. You know what I'm saying? And people don't bother you.
True.
Especially back in the day that there's no social media. You know what I'm saying?
No one to cancel the face doctor.
All right.
Nadine?
Wait, Naomi, here.
Nadine. My bad. I am no comment.
No comment? No?
I mean, I feel like The Simpsons copied a segment of the end when she's exiting and she's like in this glorified like gown and whatever. Like, I feel like she was Mr. Burns when she's glowing. Do you guys know? Like, I feel she was good.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like The Simpsons copied it. So that's all I gotta say with that part at the end. Yeah.
Well, honestly, that's like my favorite like final image too, is like that last bit, because it really is beautiful. It's that like good for her moment. Like,
yeah.
Where it's like she stood up for herself and she killed somebody, but she's stronger for it. So good for her.
I was waiting for one of the doves to just land on her arm again.
Well, she was carrying one of them.
Oh, wait, she was on there.
Yeah, she was
She's
carrying
a
one.
Disney princess. Okay.
Officially.
Oh, those doves at the end, that was some straight, Chow Yun Fat, straight John Woo type ish. Like, and I just kept thinking, like, I couldn't even really enjoy the moment because I kept thinking, like, man, there's probably like these PAs and bird handlers back there just like throwing birds. Into
there was definitely one or two shots where, like, the camera, I'm like, someone's just right behind the camera, just chucking birds,
tossing birds into the.
Because it was not gleeful whatever flying. It was just like feathers just blowing in front of the camera.
But I know what they were like trying to do, and it was dope.
And on the topic of animals, was that like the most adorable mauling that you guys ever saw?
Yeah, that one big dog was just like, I am so good at this acting thing.
Yeah.
Like, he was smiling the whole time.
It was great.
Yeah, to me yeah.
I just imagine like they put some prosciutto on the guy's face and had the dogs like lick it off.
Yeah, no, they were obviously a lot more interested in each other than what they were actually supposed to be doing. Steve?
That's why you use the quick cuts, you know what I'm saying? That's how you disguise it a little bit somehow. But yeah, it did look like the dogs weren't really trying to do anything. I was gonna say about the last scene. You were focused on the real stuff, like what was happening on set. To me, I was focused on the actual story of like, oh, so she's just gonna try to integrate herself into a society in the 60s that's not gonna accept her like this?
You're
So-
I
overthinking
didn't
that,
think
bro.
that. I thought she was going into the forest to like off herself.
Yeah, same.
Oh, you thought? I thought she was just gonna integrate herself into society.
Yeah, because she was talking
No.
about she didn't want to be here anymore and like let me just die. And I just figured after she killed her paw, she's like, I'm just gonna go off into this forest and like put myself in the river or something.
So
That's-
that was Suicide Forest then.
That's what you guys were watching. I was actually watching the shadow work behind every framework, like the shadow that was the lightning that was happening as she was going down the stairs. And I'm like, damn, whoever put the light there, they did a good job. That's what my thought was. Like, I don't know about you guys, but the lightning there was good. Like, in my perspective. To
No,
you.
definitely. But like that's kind of
I guess
interesting.
that was really good lighting. That was fantastic lighting.
Right, like
It
shadow
was.
work was good as she was flowing down the stairs, every angle. Whoever did that, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, no, like they really treated her role specifically with like a lot of care, and you can definitely see that. And it was a really powerful performance. So, is there anything else that anyone would like to talk about, or should we like go into final thoughts already, or like what are we all feeling?
I mean, I thought like the last. I wasn't checking the time too much. I was at the beginning, but towards the end, I just felt like there was intellectually, I understood every plot point that was happening and what needed to happen for the story to wrap up. But emotionally, I didn't feel it. It felt like so like we have to accept so many things happening towards the end. We have to have her from being a bystander to like an active kind of bystander as she's like seeing her dad do the operations to then being guilty about being part of the process. And I feel like most of that emotional work happens in like the last 20 minutes. And then it's supposed to coincide with the investigation. And I'm like, there was even a point because I was getting really hungry, where I was like, dang, like the cops still haven't even like double checked to see if the woman was checked in or checked out, and they still got to follow up and like make sure that she made it from the cops to purchase her ticket at the train station, and then they got to check if she like arrived home yet, and they got to do all these things, and it's just the cop at like 10 minutes before the movie's over, the cops go, they hear that she's been checked out of the hospital, and they're like, okay, our job here is done. And I was like, oh, that's it. Okay, so we're done. Like the movie's wrapping up.
And plus, they had some suspicions towards the doctor, right? Like I think they brought it up right where they thought, okay, something's up with this doctor, which is why we sent her to this particular hospital. And they just took his words, like, no, she's gone. I don't know what you guys talking about. Get the heck out of here. She's gone. Like, you're gonna take a word from who lives across from his hospital. Like, what was?
Also,
I feel like the actual like investigation part of the film was like something that like the writer was just like, I don't know, we need a good guy, I guess, instead of just like focusing on like.
It should have been just the husband then, because they try to have the husband like collaborate with the detectives. Like it should have just been the husband.
Right.
Like, oh well.
Yeah, no, like cops were absolutely useless in this film to the nth degree. It was just like, oh yeah, and by the way,
and nearly got someone killed.
talking about feeding someone to the wolves.
Oh
I mean, that's ridiculous. She was accused of shoplifting. You would think she was like, some type of spy or something. You know what I mean? Like she did something terrible.
No.
French secrets.
Well, what made it worse is that I was like, all right, just kind of scare her straight, but let's keep a tab on her. And then it's like, oh, we have this issue over here. Yeah, let's go dig this girl up that we let her go without any issues, but we just were messing with her. And now let's actually put her life in danger.
She should have gone for a lawyer.
It's like, hey, wait, she looks like our Vix. let's turn this into bait.
Straight baited that young lady.
And
They straight did.
They did not give a shit afterwards. Like, I guess we lost her. Oh well.
I do think though this is where the film of it all like doesn't age well. Is like it's kind of a slasher film, and then it's like kind of a cops and robbers like noir chase film, but it's not, because the cops aren't really onto it until the end of the film. And then it's the emotion is kind of all with the eyes without a face, the daughter, who is like grappling with, oh, my dad's like, I'm trying not to kill myself and my dad's trying to help me, versus like, oh, my dad's a monster and I'm gonna end myself. And it's like these three things that are juggling for screen time, but aren't necessarily like connecting in the best way possible.
Yeah. Like, I actually was really surprised when I found out that this was like actually made in 1959, because like to me it felt so much older, just because like the way the plot was structured. Like it felt like one of those like really like those old 1940 Bela Lugosi gangster movies. You know, like not the good stuff he's known for. Like literally, like there's like this one where he's a gangster and he's like feeding gangsters to like this random scientist every time one of them died. Like, but like it's like such a convoluted plot. Like,
or have,
you know,
or have the detectives like tie up the movie in a nice bow tie, like at the end of Psycho. I was like, oh, it's because the doctor was this, and this, and that.
Right.
Well, that never happened.
So it's just very interesting how old this film actually feels.
Did the young bait chick, the one they set up, did she die? Did they?
No, she ran away. Unless the dogs got her, you know.
She was in a mask though, right? Like she had bandages on her face.
Yeah, no, it was she didn't, because they didn't start cutting into her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like she was like really close, and then the daughter like lets her go.
Right. Oh yeah. I like that she defended herself, because I kept thinking when I was watching this, I'm like, man, like you need to like try to fight back and get out of there, girl. And I didn't see it happening, because like this is the 50s, they're just gonna let her get like swept off into the night. And when she took that wine bottle, why she had a wine bottle, I was like, that's so French. You're like, here, have some wine with your lunch, prisoner. And she cracked her with it. I'm like, good for you, girl. Get out of here.
That's how I felt about the daughter too, with the scalpel. I was like, oh, we're about to go.
Oh yeah. And no blood came out of the neck. It just went into the neck. And she was like, hold on, wait, let me do it. She was like,
That's how you know it was a really good tool.
no blood. She just collapsed. Like that death scene was incredible.
It's on the eyes, though. You know, that's what they were. The French.
Sure.
Oh, for sure. Now that you remind me of that, yeah, for sure. That was like a crazy death scene.
Yeah.
It really was.
Man. But why even keep the second or third victim alive? That I thought was weird.
That's how you make an exit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The
Well,
doc had What's that?
Oh, I just wanted to bring up just one of the ridiculous things, to me at least, was when he goes on the rounds in his little and he's like checking like one patient. I think the little boy, like it was so random. At least to me, it just felt like, is this guy even a doctor?
I know. I feel like they really wanted you to like see his like humanity in that scene, but it didn't. You know, like, but it didn't play well, because like it was him being like, oh man, poor Jimmy, sad.
He'll never survive the next Christmas.
Right. Like, and that was like the whole thing. It's like his desperation to save everyone.
But we got a good look at like late 1950s French medical equipment straight out of an old documentary. It's like, wow, I'm learning in this movie.
It's the first French film which we have watched where a kid is not smoking a cigarette. So, you know.
Hey!
Oh,
that's true.
Hey.
I don't think anyone smoked a cigarette.
Yeah, they did. The doctor was smoking, and
was he? Okay,
Yeah.
never
Like, it was probably there because he smoked a cigarette, though.
Like, let's be honest. All right, so I guess we should just start with final thoughts then. And like, if I think we already kind of went around saying how this is probably not something we would like recommend unless like it was their person, like you were with someone and they were like a true cinephile. So yeah, let's do last thoughts.
You know, I think after talking it with people, I think there's definitely more in it, and I think it's like some people brought it up at the very beginning. Very enjoyable if you watch it with people. So yeah, I think if someone's into horror, for sure, I would recommend it. Because again, it's one of the, you could say, pillars of certain horror genres that we just take for granted. So that's why, to me, it tickles me a little bit when we're like, we're gonna watch a 1950s horror movie. This this is scandalous, and then we get this, but it's like, okay, people were probably freaking out when they saw this film. You know what I mean?
Right.
I definitely, yeah, I would recommend this to anyone that likes horror or that likes Face Off. If you enjoyed Face Off, you're gonna like this.
The perfect movie pairing.
Yeah.
Double feature night.
I was actually trying to think like this. I do think this would have been awesome to watch like as a group, because I think collectively we would probably be like, snickering, laughing, exhaling together. I think it'd be a much more of an experience instead of me just watching it in my bedroom, at 10 p.m. getting hungry. So there's that. I also think though too, like her in that dress with the mask going down the stairs lurking is like such an aesthetic I'm like here for, and we'll go back to. And now I understand why people do champion this film and do like reference it on a lot of stuff. And then the last thing I was just gonna say is I mean, even even the Phantom of the Opera, that's a good one. Good pairing. I was gonna say even the fact that they like reserve showing you the mask and her face without a mask for so long, it just like builds that suspense and that mystery and like the fear of like, oh, I don't want to see it, I don't want to see it, I don't want to see it. And I feel like the payoff, even this many years later, is still like super effective.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
It's definitely more of a film because I watched it with people and with the lights on, and it was well, like it's weird because like now that I'm reflecting back, it's like you don't get the same enjoyment out of it like a B movie, but I think this film takes itself a little bit more seriously, so that's why you don't get the same like riffing factor out of it. But like there's enough of that in the film where you could definitely riff on it for fun, but there's enough story and enough like just structure that holds it just barely together where it's like you can actually enjoy just the narrative itself of the film. So yeah, it's weird. It's like it's in a weird gray area. But yeah, I so far I would have to agree. Like me watching this on my own, I would either make fun of it or just be confused the entire time, to be honest. So yeah, I think a group setting definitely for this sort of film. And yeah, I would recommend it if you want to watch it with your friends and your buddies. It's a short film. It's an hour and a half. Like it's a nice little thing. Double feature. You like Raymond and Dino said before, pair this movie with another one, and you got yourself a double feature movie night. It's good.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be a fun Halloween party.
Yeah.
Like, I think it'd be a really fun Halloween party pick. Like, you do this one, and then you choose something, like, really scary or like, or even goofier.
Nosferatu.
Maybe. Like, I think I'm definitely in the same boat. Like, I think that it's a beautiful film. Like, I think it's shot beautifully. I think that there's a lot of interesting things to look at. And, like, it's always fun to, like, speculate. Because, like, I feel like if I watched it again, I'd come away with it with, like, a different take. on the story, which is kind of fun. Yeah, no, like I think it is a good film. I don't think that it's like something I'd like sit down and just like enjoy. Like it's definitely not like Night of the Living Dead to me.
Gotcha.
Well, final thought. I can't agree with you guys more. You guys nailed it once again. I feel like you guys all really kind of encapsulated the mood and the feelings and the ideas of this movie like so well. Raymond is exactly right when he talks about the aesthetic of her in the dress and coming down the steps with the mask, and it's really right up there with the great monsters. Like, I mean, I guess she's not supposed to be a monster, but for all intended purpose, she's the monster in this movie, and it's eerie, and it sort of flows, and her frame, because she's so thin, the dress flows. She's a ghost. She's really a ghost. That's fantastic, and I can't agree more that this movie actually becomes better if you pair it with something else, because it has that type of double feature vibe to it, sort of built in. And watching it with a group of friends who enjoy movies would be great. So would I recommend this thing? That's what we're here for. I can't recommend it to everyone because I know people would say, Jason, you're a nut, and why'd you do this to me? But to cinephiles, absolutely. To horror movie files, 100%. For people who are just like, I'm trying to do a deep dive into maybe some weird French movie with some circus music happening, indeed. That's my final thought.
And your pretentious nerd friend, he will love it, or at least pretend to.
Ooh, hot take.
There's something underlying that's hella gay. So I'm like, gays would love it. The aesthetic, the women, some that are heavily flawed, some that are the right woman of the villain, and so much power. There's a lot of interesting things I think that are kind of lying underneath the surface.
Well, those pearls that she's wearing, I thought that was super clever. Like it was covering the scar.
Right.
Pearl necklace, different kind of pearl necklace, but yeah.
That's the new Oye Cinema sign right there.
Yeah.
We should have all worn pearl necklaces, chokers tonight.
We're gonna have
I think that was the clincher too. That was the clincher.
Nope, that's
we
not
have
it.
the Cinema Club awards. We're gonna all wear pearl. Final thought. I'll jump in. Final thought. Good film. It's a really good film. I think, again, like I said in the beginning, this is a film you got to see with other people and hopefully in a bigger screen, because it also it will be better to see it in like a bigger setting. This is a great movie to watch. I was saying a drive-in cinema would be great. An amazing movie for that. Also a great movie like Enter the Dragon and other movies have we seen in the past that you can definitely put in the background and just let it chill on mute. You're just doing your thing and you're just watching like the good shots of it. Definitely will recommend this movie to every female in the world that wants to get plastic surgery, just to
Oh my god.
just to scare them a little bit, when they see her image, besides that, I feel like they should do a remastered version if the people that own the rights of this film are still alive, and just change that freaking music, man. That's the only thing that
keep the music.
That's me. That's just me.
Keep the music.
Music, if you want, I got some homies that do music and can get it. So that's my final thought.
Okay.
All right. Well, here's your homework, Steve, because I know you just have all the time in the world because you just rolling on them Tesla stock. Get the trailer and put the music, like I don't know, like a minute clip, and put the music that you think it should be there of her walking down the whatever. Let's
The first one is called Chona from Mexico. Chona, I think it's.
So did everybody give their final thought? Lechona?
I believe I'm the last one. Final thought. I recommend this with a group of people. I watched this alone and I was slightly lost of what was happening, and I'm always lost of what's happening in life. So I enjoyed the dress. Like, if you're someone that's searching for like to look for clothes in gray and white, I'm sure this girl was wearing green, just like Michaela is right now, because it balances off well when you reduce saturation. Other than that, final thoughts, I don't really have much to say. I'm pretty familiar that a bunch of people have grabbed some of these images and like referenced themselves off of it. Like, I feel like The Simpsons copied it or whatever. Yeah, it's an original for its time. I think it did a stepstone. It was a stepstone for cinema. So, final thoughts there.
Boom, boom.
All right, so that was our review of Eyes Without a Face, brought to us by Michaela. Steve, what do you have for us next week?
Next week, so this was happening since we have people here, you know, that haven't went. I made a list with numbers, and those numbers have names assigned to them. So you guys are gonna vote for a random number, and the person that has the most vote is the person that's gonna get to go next.
8.
But if there happens to be a tie, then I will be the tiebreaker because I'm the extra person. So the numbers 1, 2, or 3. That's it. That's all you get. You don't get a picture. You don't get nothing. You just get numbers. You wait, Raymond, wait. It has to be done at the same time. I'm sorry, Raymond is new. But it has to be done at the same time, so there's no cheating. So if you want to change your number, you can change it, but you can pick whatever. Okay, are you guys ready? You got your number?
I got my number.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. What's your number? Reveal it. We got 3 2s and 3 3s.
Oh, flip a coin! Flip a coin!
I actually wanted to vote for 1, so nobody voted for 1.
God damn. That's
What if that's your tiebreaker? It's tied. All right. The one.
What?
The election all over again.
No, I'm gonna go with 2 or 3. You know what? I'm gonna go with 2. I was gonna flip a coin, but I'm just gonna go with 2 because he's a new member, and you know he gets to pick a movie. So Raymond, it's your turn. Here you go. Number 1 was Naomi. Number 2 was Raymond, and number 3 was Jason.
Got it. Wait, so like, was I supposed to have prepared this before I got here?
Well, I know I put you on the spot. So
Way to be a great guest, Steve.
So if you want, you can just pass it along and have it for next week if you want time to prepare. If you can't think of a movie at this very moment.
No, I got you. I just need like a 3-second drum roll.
Okay. No worries.
Have y'all seen this or as a group, or have most of y'all seen it already? Because I definitely haven't, but it's been on my to-do list as well. Magnolia.
As long as we haven't seen it as a group.
Oh, okay.
Magnolia, we haven't seen.
I've seen.
We have not.
But it's been.
Let's
it's
do
been
this.
forever.
Woo!
Magnolia!
Magnolia?
Yeah.
See,
Oh my god, that sounds like a terrible movie.
Tom Cruise, John C. Reilly.
Oh, John C. Reilly's there? Okay, it should be funny then.
Philip
Julianne
Seymour
Moore's
Hoffman.
in there.
I don't know. It just sounds like a cast of white people.
You're
Yeah.
not wrong.
It is.
You already know what's gonna be my take.
Oh my god.
I've only ever, my roommate's obsessed with this film, and I've only ever seen Julianne Moore's scene in a pharmacy where she comes in and like has this mental breakdown. That's all I'll say. But it's like she's fully committed, but it's also like the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. So I'm hoping the rest of the film.
I think context plays a key part in that.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Magnolia it is. That's your final decision.
Yeah.
Okay. So for Raymond Arturo, El Dondino, Michaela and JP, Jason Echoes, Daniel YG, and Steve Des TV. We'll catch you next week. Bye bye.
Hi, I'm JP Cerno and welcome. Hi, I'm JP Cerno and thank you for watching Oye Dimelo. Hi, I'm JP Cerno and thank you for watching Oye Dimelo. Fucking shit. Okay. Hey, I'm JP Cerno and thank you for watching Oye Dimelo. Right? Jesus Christ. And I just, as soon as it's the third one, because this is the third one, right? I am JP Cerno, and thank you for watching Oye Dimelo, Oye Dimelo, supercut of every time I fuck it up. Hey, I'm JP Cerno, and thank you for watching Oye Dimelo. Hey, I'm JP Cerno, and thank you for watching Oye Dimelo Network. And click here for additional videos, and don't forget to subscribe. The Lonely Singles in your neighborhood already did.